Now, getting access to accessible feminine hygiene products is a real challenge for many blind women out there. And of course, when you add on the stigma and the taboo around menstrual health, you can really see a problem emerge for many blind women. Well, that is where technology can help. And one company that is starting up to try and solve this problem is FlowSense. Muna Dawd is with me now to tell me more. Muna, welcome to Double Tap.
Thank you so much for hosting me, Stephen. It's been great yeah.
Yeah, brilliant to talk to you. Okay, first off, tell us about FlowSense. What is it?
Yeah, FlowSense is a journey companion for menstrual empowerment. It's a product designed with a deep understanding of the unique challenges faced by visually impaired women who struggle to differentiate between period blood and other vaginal fluids. And it's basically a accessible period blood detection device for at-home testing. And our goal is to empower women by providing them with a reliable, non-invasive, and discreet solution that can offer detection as well as cycle tracking and overall menstrual health education.
Yeah, a lot to unpack here because this
Yeah.
is a big topic and an issue that clearly affects, arguably disproportionately, uh, blind women and
hmm
women who are low vision as well. So I want to ask you how you came to the idea that this was needed. Where did the inspiration come from for this?
Yeah, I would say the inspiration was it was a different elements like my own personal challenges with menstrual health. I've been dealing with endometriosis for a while, and I was always curious about designing solutions that have a greater impact, but specifically for women, and then could based coming from my background in innovation and design, I've always been working on accessible design, and I realized the huge gap in menstrual health products for visually impaired women. That has motivated me to combine both my personal experiences, my passion for women's health, and a deeper desire to really want it to make a huge difference. And so I started the project with FlowSense, having no idea that I was going to work specifically on menstrual hygiene, but just an overall, just, you know, diving into the topic and seeing what is a possible lack of innovation and need for impact.
Yeah, our lives are very similar. Actually, you follow what you know, don't you? You
hmm
you follow your, and oftentimes that's when the best results happen, isn't it? When you follow your own knowledge, your own experiences, and you put, as you've said, these two experiences together, these two skills essentially together,
hmm
and you come up with this incredible product. Um, so, what was your first experience with blind people in this? Because are you
hmm
blind yourself? Are you low vision yourself?
No, I'm not visually impaired, but I had to work with visually impaired women for this project. Um, and I was really careful about not adding my biased opinion, although it's great to have multiple perspective into like um, when you're creating a product. But I think it was like a huge learning curve, and also knowing what instead of me coming up with a solution that I could say this works for everyone, what's really um, rewarding was being able to work with as many as women as I can, and I gathered input from both visually impaired women as well as visually abled women, and that had really striked into what the whole component and like the features of the product, the different um, different themes that it needs, whether it's hygiene, whether it's tracking. I try to make it accessible and and well-rounded to fit the needs of the majority of people.
Okay, so as much as you can tell us here, because
hmm
obviously I know it's a delicate topic for many, and I
hmm
understand that, but it's important to understand how this works. So can you talk us through the product?
Yeah, absolutely. So um, the product encompasses a portable handle device and a charging docking station that also acts as a cleaning kit. So the functionality of it is that the product detects period blood versus discharge, for example, and the user would have to use it in the beginning of their cycle, right before their cycle starts, like 3 to 4 days, and then at the end to confirm the detection of period blood. Um, so the portable part of the device, the part that contains um, testing strips, they are disposable. And so what the user would do is they would easily swab it onto sanitary pads or underwear or directly onto the skin, um, making sure that the part that they're swiping has the testing strip. And then what happens is that they can push a button and that would detect the menstrual changes with the help of a sensor that would analyze the input. And for help with like getting the result through discreteness, if you push the button, it would vibrate 3 times, telling you this is menstrual blood versus one or two vibration telling you that this is not. Um, and so while it's doing that detection, um, it is also recording your data. It's letting you know that this is the first day of your cycle, second day of your cycle, and it gives that customized algorithm. And so it's a very small, compact, portable device. It fits into, your pack. It's easy to use. And the setting charging docking station that would act as a vanity-like wireless product. And the results are also linked through an app. There's an audio accessible app that can also track the cycle and provide menstrual health education to the user, educating them about different phases of their menstrual cycle, and just overall keeping a bit more well-rounded perspective into the whole process of menstrual health.
When I was reading up on FlowSense, I was also reminded of the fact that the Apple Watch recently was or had a
Hmm.
feature added to it where you could cycle track. You could track
Right.
those menstrual
Yeah.
cycles, which is great. But I guess you need to know when it starts, and that's the challenge for a lot of blind women. Now, actually, again, in talking before this interview to friends of mine and to my own wife as well,
Hmm.
who is also visually impaired, she said to me, "Well, hang on a minute. There are ways women can tell the difference. There are
Right.
ways we know." Are you suggesting, however, there are challenges with that actually maybe
Hmm.
people wouldn't know, that actually visually, if you can't see the spotting, for example, you wouldn't know necessarily that's the case. There wouldn't be, for example, a smell or something that would give it away.
Right. So I think it's very interesting, like how the woman's body, um, with our hormonal changes from a cycle to a cycle, a majority of women can predict when the cycle is about to start, but when that happens, it's already starting. Whether you're getting a little bit of cramps right before it starts or you're getting cramps on the day of, I think the key here for a visually impaired woman is that yes, she can might feel some symptoms that it's about to start. It might not be very accurate into what day it is. For example, I do, and I think a lot of women have a app for a cycle tracking, and that really gives me the peace of mind. I know 3 to 4 days before it starts that it's gonna come around that day, and it's pretty accurate. The problem is those apps are not accessible. And so what FlowSense is doing is that it's giving the user, a visually impaired woman, an accessible means of knowing specifically when it starts for her, as well as keeping her current routine. So a lot of visually impaired women would either smell or feel the texture, and many of them, if they're not sure, they would have to ask someone and rely on that close relationship they have with other people to just, hey, double check, is this the period? So FlowSense is trying to take away that reliance on others and giving the user empowerment and confidence to knowing that for themselves, knowing that this is the period versus discharge. And so that I think the trickiest part is, although there could be um, different cues that helps different people, whether it's smell or texture or asking someone or, you know, feeling a bit of cramps, I think there's still a lack of independence. And FlowSense is giving the user that empowerment, where while you're detecting, it's going to at the same time track your cycle. So you don't have to do something out of your way to record your cycle on an app. It's already fitted nicely into the routine. And instead of swabbing, showing it to someone, you do it and you figure out if it's your period um, that had started. And so the other thing that it really, I think it's like it overall, it's not just an hygiene and tracking solution. It's also giving a empowerment and mental well-being to those women who don't necessarily have to constantly worry about when it's coming, and having that mental well-being already covered for you. I think it really improves the quality of life, and also and in terms of like health standards, um, having to wear pads multiple times, multiple days before the cycle starts or the after it ends, and not knowing when it ends, I think that has a huge health implications because it can increase sanitary infections, and or it could be very irritating to be using sanitary pads when you don't need it. So it is a very well-rounded solution that I feel like it goes beyond just detection, for sure.
That's very interesting because look, I'm the guy here, right, who knows nothing about any of this stuff, and I try to educate myself as much as possible, and I do that by listening to women, right, because you know best. So what do I know? But it's fascinating to me because I guess there are thoughts that run through my mind, like for example, well, I guess you could just wear a pad for a few more days either side just to be sure, but I didn't even consider that fact that that could have an impact on health as well. It doesn't even factor. But I also think about when you talk about the need for tracking and knowing. I also think about those younger blind women who perhaps don't know when things are starting in their lives. That can be a very, for any woman, you know, uh, becoming a woman essentially. Moving from being a girl to a woman, arguably, is the phrase we used to use. Um, I think that can be a very difficult time, and if you add blindness to that, and
Hmm.
the embarrassment, the fear of talking about it,
Hmm.
everything that every woman experiences. But now add to that the inability to know or see any of this. It must be terrifying. So, I guess a product like this can really empower people to feel confident about themselves and their
Hmm.
body.
Yeah, and I think the lack of innovation and accessibility into the feminine market adds into the ongoing menstruation stigma around periods. Um, I think it was very eye-opening when I first was researching the topic and just asking the women, "Can you please tell me your menstrual hygiene routine?" That question was like, am I allowed to ask? Even for myself, when it's like a woman to a woman, I just want to know, like, do you need help with that? Like how, because we spend 30 to 40 of our lives menstruating. It's a huge part of your life that, it's one time event, and I don't think that that should really like lower your quality of life, and it's an important huge part of our life. Like we focus so much on reproductive health, um, or infertility, and the like menstrual hygiene and menstrual health is just like a core part of being a woman. And so, yeah, even for myself, when I was first asking those questions during the research, it was like I went into completely having no idea, and I could tell um, those questions were throwing off people. Sometimes we're like, oh, no one really asked me that question,
Yeah, I
right?
was going to say no one's ever asked. No one's ever
Right.
asked the question
Yeah.
before, and
Yeah.
it's a fear. It combines so many aspects. Look, I think there are people out there who probably believe. I mean, I say this as a guy from my perspective. I know there are plenty of people I've met over the years who can't even imagine blind people having sex.
Hmm.
So, the idea that we even have organs that we can, I
Hmm.
think there's some people who think we're Ken dolls, and it's just, I honestly think that's how people think because there's just this sense of we just don't even want to think
Hmm.
about that at all. So just shut our minds off to it, which is probably why there's been no innovation in this space until you've come along. I mean,
Hmm.
it's kind of that would obviously be one of the questions I would guess a mainstream tech journalist would ask you. Why has this never been done before? And the answer is, I guess, simply because no one will talk about it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I think for a huge part after I've created the product was like focusing more on awareness. I spent more time talking about it and educating users and mm, like telling people that there is a huge need for FlowSense. Um, rather, it's very unique. It hasn't been done before, and I consider it, well, the world's first blood detection device that's commercially available. So we, and it's very rewarding at the same time to be you know, at the front of innovation and accessibility for women. Um, and I think this FlowSense is just one of many, many other solutions that are real needed for everyone. And I really hope that it does give people the light bulb to want to create more products that could help others as well.
Yeah, I feel on this show we talk about issues all the time and issues that surprise people. And we know we have many sighted people who watch and listen to us. And, oftentimes I'll hear people say, I had a real aha moment. It feels like the Oprah show sometimes. You get that aha moment of, wow, I never knew about this. I never considered that. And it might be, the idea of a blind person using a smartphone just blows their mind.
Hmm.
This topic will completely blow their mind because they would never have considered it. And even if they had considered it, they would never consider how blind women would deal with this issue. So, this is something which I think it surprised me because I didn't realize there was nothing else out there at this point that was doing this. Now, let's get a
Hmm.
little bit technical if we can, because this app
Hmm.
that you talk about, what I'm thinking about is that cycle tracking app on the Apple Watch, for example, which is also,
Hmm.
I think, on the iPhone as well, and I'm sure Android
Hmm.
is similar. Um, does the data from your FlowSense, does it go into Apple Health? I mean, can you essentially combine all of this together? Is that something you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely, you can combine the data to fit in nicely in an existing product. It's very um, manageable to do that, and it gives users more customization. They don't need to just use the app. Um, and like I say, there are already app tracking for women, um, but they're not accessible. So that's the key here. I think FlowSense, the current product, it does come with its own audio accessible app, and the beauty of it is that the user doesn't need to necessarily go into the Apple Watch or go into the other apps and record their data. This is the first day because this is what I do it when I use those apps. Like I have to record the first day and the last day, and sometimes you forget to record the end because you're like, oh,
Absolutely.
I'm done with it.
Yeah, and you're
Um,
busy, right? You've got other things going on.
right. Yeah, and so it is a two-in-one solution. So yes, you can add the data to your other tracking devices, but it's already doing that for you when you're using the product because when you're testing in the beginning of your cycle, you're like, oh, today's the first day. You know that, but the device feeds off that results to the app and it records it for you. So you don't need to go out of your way to record what day it is. Um, and well, the it's the product also, when you're reaching the end of the cycle, you would repeat that detection process again because you want to find out if it's over or not. And then if it detects that there's no presence of menstrual blood, then it's going to record that day. And so that is really nice because it's just like while your, concern is detection, it's going to also give you that option to track. And it's going to give you a personalized algorithm where it knows your cycle, like whether it's 3 days, 4 days. I think I was looking into research for this, and um, actually, it's reported that visually impaired women overestimate their cycle um, period. They would, if it's like a 7 day, they would, for example, they would, or I mean, sorry, if it's like a 4 day, they will say it's a 5, 6 day. Um, and it's because it's hard. Like, how would you know when it's reaching the end if it's there or not? So,
And it's the
um,
last few, I guess, the last day or even the last 2 days,
right.
where you may not be able to tell in any other way except visually that it's done. You wouldn't
Hmm.
know otherwise. So that's where this device obviously can make the difference.
Right.
Um, it's obvious that smart tech is going to, and it is already becoming part of our everyday lives. I think about my
Mm-hmm.
smart scales that I use and the smart blood pressure monitor I've got, and how all that feeds into my apps and
Mm-hmm.
feeds into my overall health and lets me be more aware of me and my life and my health and all the rest of it. And although most of the time when I stand on the scales, I just get big flashing alerts saying, for goodness sake, enough for the KFC. But, the thing is, I think it's great that this stuff exists. I also think what you're building here has got immense potential, as you imagine will have already considered this, that it's,
Mm-hmm.
the potential to go much further. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
give you one example, which was a doctor who once asked me, and thankfully there was nothing to be concerned with in my case, but there was a doctor who asked me on a medical visit whether or not I had blood in my urine,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't answer the question. I wouldn't know. I would have no way of knowing that, except, let's be brutally honest, taking a picture and showing
Mm-hmm.
it to the doctor, which doesn't feel great.
Right.
I don't want to
Yeah.
have that picture on my phone.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of thing. I guess it's part of this kind of way of we having to find our way to do this differently, which in some ways is not the nicest way to do it. Doesn't feel very
Mm-hmm.
private. And I'm not suggesting for a second this is the same thing, but it amounts to the same thing, which is that, we are wanting to be healthy people, and there could be things happening around us we are unaware of that could be
Right.
causing us problems, but we don't know because we can't see the problem. And this is where I guess something like FlowSense could you know absolutely take on that job.
Yeah, no, and I it's thank you for sharing that. I think like you said, the opportunities are all fast. Um, and I also considered adding visually abled women into the product, and this is a great idea like later on in the when I scale it up because um, so many women already using vaginal health monitoring products like pH test strips or um, and so it could be that the product could work for them as well because while it's doing the detection, it's also helping the user know what's their level of pH. Sometimes you don't need to go to the doctor, you just want to find out what exactly it is and just if you're experiencing symptoms like itchiness or your UTI or all of that, right? So it's not replacing the job of the doctor, but it can give you that simple cue to like knowing where your balance is at. And I think I mean, it's already that process is already embedded in the current design. So it's like two in one. And so I think um, adding tech into sometimes tech can overcomplicate our lives, but in this situation, I feel like it can very simplify it. Um, and if it works for everyone, having an inclusive solution, I think it's what the future should be like.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. What's the take up then? So where are you at with this product? How
Hmm.
how soon will it come to market?
Yeah, so it's very exciting. I've been working on FlowSense for about a year, and as I was mentioning earlier, the first year was like patting in the technology, which it's exciting that it's going to be granted in the next few months in the UK, and I've been more focused on the awareness and going to conferences. We had an amazing trip to Japan where FlowSense was invited to the Japanese Parliament um, um, to speak about accessibility design. Um, and recently, um, we won the London Mayor's Entrepreneurship Program, which is a really great for recent startups, early businesses that are coming out of universities. And just now we had um, been able to get an award from the UK Innovate Grant, which is a grant that's focused on design and innovation and user testing. So currently, right now, we will be doing a 6-month research project with a um, London-based charity called I Matter. Um, and where we'll be affiliated also with RNIP, the Royal Institute of Blind People in the UK, and try to recruit as many women as we can for the next coming 6 months while this project is being funded by the UK Innovate Grant and redevelop our product and see what different features are we going to change. We do have a minimal viable product, but we need to test it with a like intensely with wider ranges of users. Um, and we're predicting that by the end of the 6 month, hopefully by next summer, I think we're looking into like next summer, that's when we're gonna start manufacturing. So I would say product launch could be around end of next year, which is very exciting. We might um, accelerate it a little bit earlier, maybe in around the fall of next year. But I would say we want to spend as much time as we can to work on the development and have a strong commercial scalability before launching it. Yeah. So, which for me as a designer and engineer, this is my favorite part of the business. Um, Getting hands-on, being able to talk with the women one-on-one, and seeing um, like a rebirth to FlowSense. And having a growth in the team as well to consult with so many experts to bring this idea to life. Yeah.
Muna, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time and thank you for joining us on Double Tap. Good luck with
Absolutely.
FlowSense.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you. And I hope we will be able to chat again in the future.
Hi guys, Stephen here. If you want more content like this, then all you have to do is like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to catch new episodes of Double Tap, you can do right here on YouTube every weekday from noon Eastern or on AMI Audio across Canada and of course in your favourite podcast app as well. Thanks for watching.